I sat in that squeaky, faded blue office chair with the broken armrest, staring at the exact same water stain on the ceiling tile that I had been tracking for the past 6 years. Gavin Brooks did not look me in the eye when he slid the folders across the polished mahogany desk. He had that familiar look on his face, a rehearsed mixture of professional regret and corporate sympathy. It was a face I knew all too well. I did not even need to open the folder to know what was written inside. It was rejection number 12. For 12 separate times I had been passed over for the senior consultant role. For 6 years, I had put in 60-hour weeks, saved failing projects, and trained every single young analyst who ended up becoming my boss. This time, the promotion went to Logan Croft. Logan had been with Apex Consulting Group for exactly 8 months. He was 27 years old, fresh out of business school, and more importantly, he was the nephew of our Chief Executive Officer, Wallace Croft. Gavin cleared his throat, leaning forward and resting his elbows on the desk, trying to look like a mentor offering quiet wisdom. "Look, Larry," he said, his voice dripping with forced sincerity. "Q4 is a tough time for leadership transitions. Budget allocations are tight, and we have to align with the board's long-term vision. But I want you to know that I have personally put your name at the very top of the list for the spring promotions. We just need you to keep doing what you are doing. Keep anchoring the team." I did not say a word. I did not nod. I did not give him the usual polite smile that I had given him 11 times before. Instead, I did something that caught both of us by surprise. I started to laugh. It was not a nervous chuckle or a polite giggle. It was a deep, dry laugh that filled the small office and made Gavin look instantly uncomfortable. His rehearsed, customer service smile faltered, and his eyes darted to the closed glass door. "Something funny, Larry?" Gavin asked, his tone shifting from fake sympathy to defensive authority. "Yes, Gavin," I said, leaning back in my broken chair. "It is hilarious. I am the joke. For 6 years, I actually believed that if I just checked every single box you put in front of me, merit would win. 12 times I believed you. That is the funny part. That was the exact moment the switch flipped inside my head. That was the minute I decided to burn their kingdom to the ground, legally and systematically. My name is Lawrence Miller. Everyone calls me Larry. I was 56 years old when this happened. I am a seasoned logistics and operations expert. I spent decades in manufacturing supply chains before Apex Consulting Group recruited me 6 years ago. They needed someone who actually understood how warehouses, hospitals, and distribution networks operated in the real world, not just in PowerPoint slides. Apex is a boutique firm that specializes in healthcare operations consulting. We help hospital networks optimize their clinical supply chains and scheduling systems. For 6 years, I was the guy they called at 11 p.m. when a major hospital system was about to cancel their contract because our software implementation was failing. I was told I was the backbone of the operations team. Invaluable, they called me. But apparently, invaluable just meant they wanted to keep me exactly where I was, doing all the heavy lifting while kids half my age took the credit, the titles, and the bonuses. Before I tell you how I dismantled this place, please take a second to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and tell me in the comments if you have ever been passed over for a promotion by someone who had to ask you how to do their basic job. It helps to know I am not the only one who has had to deal with this corporate nonsense. After I left Gavin's office that afternoon, I walked back to my cubicle. I had to pass by Logan's new office. The glass door was open, and he was literally holding up a box of fresh business cards, showing them to a group of junior analysts. Logan Croft, Senior Consultant. The title that should have been mine 3 years ago when I saved the Vanguard Healthcare Network account. Apex Consulting Group was founded by 3 former corporate executives who wanted to build a lean, high-end advisory. Wallace Croft, the CEO, was the dominant partner. Gavin Brooks was employee number 6, a classic corporate climber who survived by managing upward and taking credit for the work of guys like me. I was hired during their expansion phase. Over the years, I built the entire inventory tracking system they used for hospital rollouts. I custom-coded the reporting dashboards that our clients relied on daily. I did not just consult, I built the infrastructure. And every time a promotion cycle came around, Gavin would give me a new goalpost to chase. First, it was client-facing hours. I doubled them. Then it was technical certifications. I got 3 of them. Then it was leadership. I managed 4 implementation teams simultaneously. Every time I completed their checklist, they would look at me and say, "You are doing great, Larry, but we need to see more strategic vision." Or, "The budget is tight this year, next cycle for sure." Meanwhile, they promoted Brody, who golfed with Gavin. They promoted Oliver Hastings, who was useless with data but knew how to laugh at the CEO's terrible jokes. And now Logan. That night I went home to my quiet house. My wife had passed away 4 years prior, and the house often felt too big, too empty. I sat at my kitchen table with a glass of whiskey. I called my younger brother Louis, who is a senior economist at a major bank. I spent 45 minutes venting to him, my voice cracking with frustration. "So quit," Louis said simply. "I cannot just quit, Louis," I replied. "I am 56. The job market for guys my age is brutal. I have invested 6 years of my life into this firm. I built their systems. If I leave now, I lose all that equity." "Larry, you are falling for the sunk cost fallacy," Louis said. "You are looking at the 6 years you lost instead of the next 5 years you are about to waste." "I did not say you should walk out tomorrow and starve. I said, quit giving them your best. Quit caring. Stop trying to earn the validation of men who have already decided you are too useful as a workhorse to ever let you lead. Start doing the work for yourself. Build your own exit." I lay awake watching the shadows of tree branches move across my bedroom ceiling. Louis's words kept repeating in my mind, "Build your own exit." By 4 a.m., the anger had crystallized into something cold, sharp, and focused. I realized I had something Gavin and Wallace did not. I had the technical keys. I knew the actual vulnerabilities of our client systems, and more importantly, I had the trust of the clients themselves. They did not trust Apex. They trusted Larry Miller. The next morning, I walked into the office at 8 a.m. sharp. I smiled at Gavin in the hallway. I shook Logan's hand and congratulated him. I answered my emails promptly, but everything had changed. The emotional cord had been cut. I was no longer working to impress them. I was working to free myself. I gave myself exactly 6 months. I called it my quiet exit. I was going to construct a launch pad, and when I stepped off, Apex would realize just how much gravity I had been holding back. The first phase of my plan was making myself even more indispensable. If you want to pull the rug out from under someone, you first have to make sure they are standing entirely on it. Over the next 4 months, I volunteered for the most convoluted projects, the ones that the younger consultants avoided because they required actual technical depth. I took over the optimization of Vanguard Healthcare Network system, which was the lifeblood of Apex's monthly recurring revenue. When the IT director at Vanguard had an issue, they did not call the Apex support line. They called my personal cell phone. I made sure every solution was elegant, but I also made sure that I was the only one who fully understood the custom integrations I designed. I did not sabotage anything. Sabotage is messy, and it is illegal. I simply positioned myself as the sole human bridge between Apex's buggy software and the client's operations. I documented every single workaround, system architecture, and client preference in a private digital notebook stored on my personal cloud drive. It was my intellectual property, developed outside office hours on my own personal machine. Then, during my 5th month of planning, I stumbled upon the document that changed everything. I was looking for an old server configuration file on our shared drive when I found a folder that had been poorly secured. Inside was a spreadsheet titled Project Sunrise. It was a restructuring plan. Apex was preparing for a merger or a potential sale. To make the balance sheet look attractive, they were planning to lay off 14 senior employees, all of them over the age of 50, over the next 3 months. My name was at the very top of the list. They planned to transition our accounts to younger, cheaper analysts like Logan. According to the Federal Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification Act, commonly known as the Warren Act, 29 U.S.C. Paragraph 2101, a company of our size is legally required to provide at least 60 days of advance written notice for mass layoffs. Apex had no intention of doing this. They were planning to call it individual performance-based terminations to avoid the Warren Act requirements and save on severance pay. But that was not the worst of it. 2 days later, while conducting a routine audit of the Vanguard Healthcare integration logs, I noticed that the final system acceptance certificate had been uploaded to the billing portal. This certificate confirmed that the patient scheduling system was stable and compliant with federal medical record regulations. Apex had used this document to trigger a final milestone payment of $1,200,000. I looked closely at the signature block. It had my name on it, signed on October 14. I felt blood rush to my ears. I had never signed that document. In fact, on October 14, I had explicitly written an email to Gavin Brooks stating that the scheduling database was unstable and that we could not legally deploy it because it was failing to sync patient emergency contact data. The signature on the PDF was a digital copy of mine, cropped from an old training sign-in sheet. This was forgery under California Penal Code, Section 470, a state jail felony. Because they had submitted a forged document to secure a contractor payment, it also constituted a massive breach of fiduciary duty by Gavin Brooks and Wallace Croft. In the legal world, a contract obtained through fraud and forgery is considered void from the beginning, or void ab initio. Under this doctrine, Vanguard Healthcare could legally demand a full refund of every dollar they had paid Apex over the past 2 years, totaling nearly $4,500,000. I downloaded the forged document, my original email warning Gavin about the system instability, and the server logs proving the file was uploaded from Gavin's IP address. I saved them onto an encrypted USB drive. I had my weapon. In month 5, I quietly incorporated my own firm, Zenith Business Advisory. I used my savings to secure a small office space and a business line of credit. I did not recruit any Apex clients, nor did I actively pitch to them. Instead, I simply had casual private dinners with Diana Thorne, the Chief Information Officer of Vanguard Healthcare, and Clara Finch, the Chief Operating Officer of CareFirst Health Alliance. I had known both of them for years. During these dinners, I did not badmouth Apex. I simply listened. Diana complained about the lack of technical oversight at Apex. "The software keeps crashing, Larry," she told me. "If you were not there, we would have pulled our contract months ago." I let it slip that I was looking at new opportunities. The seed was planted. By the time month 6 arrived, my bank account was solid. I had enough cash to cover my personal expenses for 8 months. My new company was fully registered. My evidence files were organized and backed up in 3 separate physical locations. I was ready. On a rainy Tuesday morning, exactly 6 months after my 12th rejection, I walked into Gavin's office without an appointment. He was reviewing a golf brochure. "What is on your mind, Larry?" he asked, not looking up. I placed my resignation letter on the center of his mahogany desk, offering a standard 2-week notice. Gavin stared at the paper, his face cycled through confusion, anger, and finally, sheer panic. "You are resigning?" he stammered, standing up. "You cannot resign now, Larry. We are in the middle of the Vanguard database migration. Logan is still getting up to speed." "I know," I said quietly, "but my decision is final." "Is this about the senior consultant role?" Gavin asked. "We can talk to Wallace. I can get you a 15% salary increase, effective next month." I looked at him, feeling a strange sense of pity. For 6 years, I had craved those words. Now they sounded like hollow whispers from a dying ghost. "No, Gavin," I said. "I am leaving in 14 days. He slammed his hand on the desk. "You have a non-solicitation agreement, Larry. If you think you can take Vanguard with you, our legal department will destroy you." I smiled, walked out of his office, and closed the door. I knew exactly what was in my HR file, and more importantly, I knew what was in my encrypted vault. Let the game begin. The 2 weeks following my resignation were a masterclass in corporate panic. For years, Gavin and Wallace had treated me like a piece of office furniture, always there, always supporting the weight of the company, never requiring maintenance or recognition. Now that the furniture was walking out the door, the entire house was starting to lean. On my second day of notice, Gavin called an emergency operations meeting. I knew about it because Fiona Lane, Wallace's executive assistant, tipped me off. Fiona was 49, another veteran employee who had been passed over for raises while the company spent money on corporate retreats. "Larry, Gavin tried to tell Wallace that you were easily replaceable," Fiona whispered to me. "But Wallace is losing his mind. Diana Thorne from Vanguard called him yesterday. She told him that if you are not leading the migration team, Vanguard will audit the entire deployment history." Later that afternoon, Gavin walked into my cubicle, his posture noticeably less arrogant than it had been the day before. He dropped a thick binder on my desk. "Larry, we need you to compile a complete system integration guide for the Vanguard account," he said, trying to sound casual. "We need a comprehensive manual so Logan can take over the management of the account without any service interruption." I looked at the binder, then looked up at Gavin. "I would be happy to do that, Gavin. But my daily hours are currently fully booked with resolving the unresolved tickets for the Care First launch. Writing a training manual is outside my current job description." Gavin frowned. "You still work for Apex, Larry. This is part of your transition duties. My contract states I am employed as a logistics analyst," I replied. "It does not state I am a technical writer. If you want me to work overtime to compile a proprietary operational guide, I will do it. But my rate for consulting and technical documentation outside my standard hours is $275 per hour, billed under a 1099 independent contractor agreement." Gavin's face turned red. "That is ridiculous. You are an employee. You cannot charge us consultant rates." "For 11 more days I am an employee," I said, keeping my voice low and steady. "If you want the manual, you can sign the agreement. If not, I will spend my remaining hours closing out my active tickets." "The choice is yours," Gavin stomped out, muttering threats. But by 4 p.m. the contract was back on my desk, signed by Wallace Croft himself. They had no choice. They did not have anyone else who knew how to query the patient scheduling database. Over the next 4 days, I worked 12 hours of overtime, writing the most detailed, precise, and completely useless manual possible. I wrote it in pure technical jargon, filled with complex database architecture that would take Logan Croft at least 3 years of advanced engineering school to comprehend. I complied with the letter of their request, but not the spirit. By the end of the first week, Apex made their first official counteroffer. I was summoned to the executive boardroom. Wallace Croft sat at the head of the table, flanked by Gavin. "Larry," Wallace began, adjusting his gold watch, "we value your long history with Apex. We recognize that you have been a cornerstone of our operations. We are offering you the senior consultant position, effective immediately, with a 15% salary increase." I looked at Wallace. He looked tired. Gavin looked like he wanted to jump across the table and strangle me. "I appreciate the offer, Wallace," I said. "But I have already made other arrangements." "What arrangements?" Gavin snapped. "You do not have another job lined up. We checked your LinkedIn. My personal plans are not the business of Apex," I replied. Wallace raised a hand to silence Gavin. "Larry, we can go to 20% on the salary, and we will guarantee you a spot on the next project management committee. You have a home here, Larry. Do not throw away 6 years of tenure over a minor delay." A minor delay. 12 rejections. 12 times sitting in that broken blue chair, listening to Gavin tell me why I was not good enough. "Thank you, Wallace. But the answer is no," I said. On Tuesday of my second week, the Vanguard database migration hit a critical error. The automated scheduling script I had built encountered a data mismatch because the hospital had updated their patient record format. The system started double-booking surgeries. The hospital administration was furious. Logan Croft was assigned to fix it, but he had no idea what a database query even was. He spent 4 hours on the phone with the customer service desk, achieving absolutely nothing. At 3:30 p.m., Gavin and Wallace called me back to the boardroom. This time, they did not look professional. They looked desperate. "Larry, we need you to fix the Vanguard script right now," Wallace said, his voice tense. "I am currently working on the Care First tickets, Wallace." "I cannot touch the Vanguard system without a formal change order," I replied. "We will give you the senior manager role," Wallace blurted out. "Skip the senior consultant level entirely. A 30% salary increase. A seat on the operations leadership team. A $10,000 retention bonus paid today. Just log into the server and fix the patient scheduling database." I sat there, looking at these two men who had controlled my professional life for 6 years. For 6 years, they had treated me like an exploit. Now they were offering me everything I had ever wanted, but only because they were drowning. "The answer is still no," I said quietly. Gavin slammed both hands on the table. "You are being completely unreasonable, Larry. What more do you want?" I stood up, adjusting my jacket. "I want my 6 years back, Gavin. But since you cannot give me that, I will take my freedom instead. I have 3 days left. I suggest you let Logan try to solve the database issue. I walked out of the room, leaving them in silence. I went back to my desk, opened my email, and sent a private, secure message to Diana Thorne at Vanguard, letting her know that my contract with Apex was ending, but that I would be available for independent technical support starting next Monday. The pieces were moving exactly as planned. On my final day at Apex Consulting Group, the office was strangely quiet. Nobody organized a farewell party. There were no cupcakes, no cards signed by the team, and no speeches. The junior analysts I had spent years training kept their heads down, too afraid of Gavin's wrath to say goodbye to me. I spent the afternoon packing my few personal belongings into a small cardboard box. A desktop plant, a coffee mug with a chipped handle, and a few family photographs. At 4:55 p.m., I walked out of the cubicle area. Gavin Brooks was standing near the elevator lobby, his arms crossed over his chest, watching me with a cold, smug expression. "You are making a massive mistake, Larry," Gavin said, his voice loud enough for the reception area to hear. "You think you can survive out there on your own? The market is brutal for consultants your age. Without the Apex brand name behind you, you are just a retired logistics guy. You won't last 6 months." I adjusted the cardboard box under my arm and pressed the elevator button. I looked Gavin in the eye and gave him a calm, genuine smile. "Watch me, Gavin," I said. The elevator doors opened. I stepped inside, and the doors slid shut, cutting off the view of the office I had poured 6 years of my life into. On Monday morning, Zenith Business Advisory officially opened for business. My office was small, just a single room with a desk, a laptop, and a whiteboard. But it was mine. I did not have to ask for permission to implement a solution. I did not have to submit a 10-page proposal to get a software upgrade. I was in control. 3 days later, the bomb exploded at Apex. Diana Thorne, the CIO at Vanguard Healthcare, had taken my warning seriously. Following my resignation, she initiated an internal review of the Vanguard database migration project. She requested all the system sign-off documents from their billing portal. When she opened the final system acceptance certificate, she noticed my signature on the document. She also noticed that the document had been uploaded on October 14, the very day she had received an email from me, warning that the system database was highly unstable. Diana Thorne was not just a corporate manager. She was a former software engineer who detested corporate deceit. She immediately called her legal department. By Thursday morning, Vanguard's legal counsel had sent a formal demand letter to Wallace Croft. The letter was devastating. It accused Apex Consulting Group of forgery under California Penal Code Section 470 and a direct breach of fiduciary duty by their managing partners. Because the final milestone payment of $1,200 had been obtained through a forged technical sign-off, Vanguard declared the entire software implementation contract void ab initio, void from the beginning. They demanded the immediate return of all payments made to Apex over the past 2 years, totaling $4,500,000, and threatened to report the forgery to the Federal Healthcare Regulatory Board. Wallace Croft's assistant, Fiona Lane, called me that evening from a burner number. "Larry, it is absolute chaos here," Fiona said, her voice shaking with excitement. "Wallace is throwing chairs in his office. The legal partners are in a panic. Gavin is trying to blame the forged document on an administrative temp. But Vanguard has the server logs showing it was uploaded from Gavin's personal office account. They are talking about criminal charges." The next morning, my phone rang. It was Diana Thorne. "Larry, we just terminated our contract with Apex," Diana said, her voice sharp and professional. "Their patient scheduling database is a disaster, and now we know why they rushed the deployment. I need someone who actually understands the data model to step in and stabilize our systems before the state audit next month." "Can Zenith handle this?" "Absolutely, Diana," I said. We signed a contract that afternoon. Zenith Business Advisory was retained by Vanguard Healthcare Network for an emergency system stabilization project. The contract was worth $180,000 for the first 3 months, with an option to transition to a long-term advisory role. My monthly revenue was already higher than my entire annual salary at Apex, but the dominoes did not stop falling. Clara Finch, the chief operating officer of CareFirst Health Alliance, heard about the Vanguard legal dispute. In the healthcare consulting world, reputation is everything. If a firm is accused of forging technical signatures, no hospital group will trust them with their patient data. Clara Finch called her legal team and initiated a termination clause in their contract with Apex, citing security concerns and breach of professional ethics. A week later, CareFirst signed an advisory agreement with Zenith. I was suddenly working 14 hours a day, but for the first time in years, I was energized. I was not working to make Gavin Brooks look good. I was building my own business. By the end of my first month, I had to hire my first employee. I reached out to Brenda Foster, a brilliant data analyst who had been laid off by Apex during their secret cost-cutting phase. Brenda was 51 years old, incredibly talented, and had been struggling to find a job because corporate recruiters kept telling her she was overqualified. When I offered her the role at Zenith, she had tears in her eyes. "Larry, I thought my career was over," she said. "Your career is just starting, Brenda," I told her. Here, we actually value experience. Zenith was growing and Apex was bleeding. The quiet exit had become a loud public reckoning, and the final chapter was yet to be written. 5 months after I walked out of Apex Consulting Group, my LinkedIn inbox chimed. I opened it and saw a message from a name I did not expect to see. It was Logan Croft. "Larry, can we meet for coffee?" The message read. "Things at Apex are falling apart. Gavin is gone. I really need some advice." I sat there for a moment, looking at the screen. Logan was the symbol of the nepotism that had pushed me to leave. But I was no longer angry. When you are successful and independent, anger fades into curiosity. I agreed to meet him at a small diner near my office. Logan looked exhausted. The polished, arrogant kid who had waved his new business cards in my face was gone. In his place was a stressed, overwhelmed young man. "Thank you for meeting me, Larry," Logan said, stirring his coffee nervously. "What is happening at Apex, Logan?" I asked. "Vanguard Healthcare is suing the firm for fraud," Logan admitted, looking down at the table. "They demanded a full refund of $4,500,000. To avoid bankruptcy, Wallace had to settle with them out of court, which wiped out almost all of our operating capital. The board launched an internal investigation. They found the forged documents on Gavin's computer. Gavin was fired last month. The company is down to 8 employees now. We lost almost all of our major healthcare clients." Logan took a deep breath. "Everybody is blaming everybody else. I was promoted to senior consultant, but I did not know how to run the systems. They expected me to fix the databases, but I do not even know how to write SQL queries. I was set up to fail, Larry. I want to work for you. I want to learn how to actually do this job." I studied his face. I had suspected he might be trying to gather information for Wallace, but all I saw in his eyes was genuine desperation. He was a kid who had been handed a title he did not earn by an uncle who did not care if he drowned as long as the family name was on the office door. "Send me your resume, Logan," I said. "I cannot hire you as a senior consultant. You do not have the technical skills for it. But if you are willing to start as a junior analyst, at a junior salary, and actually learn the technical work from Brenda, I will give you a shot." Logan's eyes lit up. "I will take it, Larry. I just want to learn." 6 months to the day after my quiet exit, my personal phone rang. The caller ID showed Wallace Croft's office number. Larry. Wallace's voice came through the speaker. It sounded weak, devoid of the executive authority it once carried. "Hello, Wallace," I said calmly. "Larry, we need to talk," he said. We are struggling. The numbers are the worst they have been in the firm's history. We have lost 7 major client accounts since you left. We want to propose a merger, Zenith and Apex. We can merge our operations. We will give you 50% equity in the combined firm, and you will take over as Director of Healthcare Operations. You can run the entire consulting division." I closed my eyes, taking in the silence of my own office. For years, I had dreamed of this moment. I had imagined standing in Wallace's office, showing him my success and watching him beg. But now that the moment was here, I felt no triumph. I just felt relief. The dream of their validation had no value to me anymore. I had built something better. I had built a company where people were treated with respect, where merit mattered, and where we did not have to forge signatures to make our quarterly numbers. "I appreciate the offer, Wallace," I said, using the exact words I had used when rejecting his promotions. "But Zenith is not interested in a merger. We have our own path. We are desperate, Larry, Wallace admitted, his voice cracking. Just name your price. I am sorry, Wallace, I said, but I have moved on, and you should too. I hung up the phone. I sat at my mahogany desk, looking out the window at the city skyline, and for the first time in years, I felt a deep, profound sense of peace. Today, Zenith Business Advisory has 17 full-time employees. We have doubled our revenue each year. We do not work 60-hour weeks. We charge what we are worth, we set clear boundaries, and we protect our team. Brenda Foster runs our analytics division, and she is the best in the business. Fiona Lane left Apex 3 months ago to become our operations manager, and she keeps our business running like a Swiss watch. Even Logan Croft has turned out to be a hard-working analyst. Without his uncle's nepotism holding him back, he has actually put in the work to learn database architecture from Brenda. Apex Consulting Group is still in business, but they have downsized to a small shared workspace. They are no longer a major player in the healthcare market. My revenge was not in watching them struggle. It was not in seeing Gavin Brooks get fired or hearing Wallace Croft beg. The real revenge was discovering that I never needed their permission to succeed. I did not need their titles or their validation to know my own worth. The 12 rejections I endured were not failures. They were just redirections pushing me to build my own door when they refused to open theirs. If you are sitting in a broken blue office chair right now, feeling invisible, feeling like your hard work is being poured into a black hole while others take the credit, please hear me. You do not have to stay in a system that is rigged against you. You do not have to keep auditioning for people who have already decided not to cast you. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is walk away. Thank you for listening to my story. If you connected with my journey, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share your own experiences in the comments below. I read every comment, and your support helps me know that walking away was the best decision I ever made. See you in the next video.